All right, it's another edition of Sport and Spinal Weekly. In the studio with me today, Dr. Erickson. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great today. Good to be back for another week of the program.
Yes, and I thought we were going to hang out some cooler temps, so I thought we were moving into maybe a season change, and that creates changes for our area, believe it or not.
Yeah, I think it's right around the corner, even though it's still pretty nice out.
Yeah, it was a beautiful week this week.
Yeah, but you can notice the evenings are getting cool, cool in the morning, so we know it's coming. And, for a lot of people that I've talked to, they're kind of ready for a little bit of a change and head on into fall.
And because it was nice and warm here this summer, so yeah, some of us are welcoming. And for some folks, it's their favorite time of year.
Well, especially for a lot of folks who are big hunters and outdoorsmen and things like that. It's everybody looks forward to that.
It's funny how we enjoy being outdoors when it's dying. It's kind of morbid, but it is pretty, right?
It is a beautiful time of year.
And as we all know, if you've lived up here at least for a half hour in the fall, then you know that means I don't know, why do they gravitate toward the ditches? Is the grass greener on the other side, or?
Oh, you're talking about our furry friends?
Yeah.
Yeah, the deer, they do, they're coming out this time of year. They're moving.
It's just part of the season. There's construction season, there's deer season, there's deer in the road season. Those are potential car accidents.
Yeah, and actually, now you bring it up, we've had a few patients here in the last couple of weeks that have had crashes with deer, and believe it or not, it can cause some damage to the body. So, something people should probably think about.
Well, and if it's happened. Well, I don't know the numbers, but I'm sure there's a percentage right now out there listening that it's happened to them.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in this week's edition of Sport and Spinal Weekly. All right, we are back, Sport and Spinal Weekly. Remember, you can always email the show, sportandspinalweekly@paulbunyan.net. Then, of course, the website is a plethora of information that you can enjoy every day, or with an ailment, or anything, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot of information on there. We update it, and like we've mentioned in the past, the archives for this show are actually on there. There's a tab. You click the Sport and Spinal Weekly tab, and if you miss a show or want to go back and listen to someone again, they're right there as well, and that's at sportandspinalrehab.com.
So enjoy that. Also, you can visit the clinic 6 days a week, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we're there Monday through Friday. We're there 5 days a week. So anyone want to come out and just visit or take a look and see, we got what I like to think is one of the top clinics in the state of Minnesota. So it's a pretty cool place.
Okay, and we were talking earlier, and we'll continue to talk about auto accidents, and that definitely affects a person's body, regardless of what they run into. But in our area, our neck of the woods, so to speak, the double, get it, neck, woods?
I got it.
Okay. But hitting deer. And some people try and maneuver, right? So when you say, we get into trouble when we're lifting and turning and twisting, and so I can imagine when we're in an automobile accident, that's happening. Yeah,
and there's a couple things that when you have a vehicle versus deer collision, just like you had mentioned here, a couple things can happen. Number one, if you actually hit the deer, I don't know if you've ever hit one. I've hit one, and I know the impact.
More than one, doctor.
Yeah, and it does. It really does affect the body. I mean, you're hitting that deer, and it can be anywhere from 100 pounds to 150 pounds, even a 200-pound deer, and you hit it at going 55 miles an hour. You can imagine the force there. It's a pretty sudden impact, and so just the impact itself obviously can cause some whiplash type of conditions to happen. The other thing is what do you do when let's say you see a deer? What's the first thing you do?
You swerve.
You swerve. You slam on the brakes. So obviously the inertia of the car moving, your body's going to keep going in that direction, and obviously you're going to end up with some real sudden body movements that you're not prepared for,
which could lead into something even worse than running into a deer.
Yeah. So we'll see sprain strains and whiplash and low back conditions. Believe it or not, you will see folks that have twisted their knees those types of things because they're applying pressure on the brake or slamming their feet into the floorboard trying to swerve around a deer. Or, you could certainly go into the ditch. Even you might not. Plenty of people have rolled a vehicle. I mean, there could be pretty serious accidents with deer collisions.
You're not always on the forgiving state or federal highways and byways across wherever you are, where they have some natural ditches and there are some county roads, and you go north of here, the ditches are 3, 4, 5 feet down, and you're going to get hurt that way as well.
Yeah, and so the thing is that I just wanted to let folks know that you certainly can get injured by that. And the neat thing is with that, it is, which maybe a lot of people don't know, that folks know that if they hit a deer that they can get their car repaired with their insurance. But if they hit a deer, they can also have a medical claim for any injuries they sustain.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and it's covered under, if you look at your policy, there'll be the portion that you need to pay for what's called personal injury protection. And so that automatically, basically with no questions asked, you can open up a medical claim if you are feeling symptoms that you haven't felt in the past. So let's just say you hit a deer, and a week later, you start to feel these strange headaches or stiffness in the upper back, or maybe your lower back, which are all very common. Or elbow strains and wrist strains are real common as well because you come up with that sudden impact. So you start feeling those things. It's as simple as calling your insurance company and opening up a medical claim, and then going to see some sort of provider to kind of again do a proper exam, diagnose and document what's going on, and then it's really straightforward. Your insurance basically covers treatment for you.
Well, in any event, because you've said so many times, sometimes you don't even realize that you're hurt or something's not right, and
and that's the thing.
To something worse.
Yeah, and that's the part about getting that exam done is that if you come into our office, what we do is a thorough exam and check ranges of motion. Make you turn and look each way, the head up and down and bend side to side, and we might notice some objective things that you may not even know are there.
Yeah, sure. So,
and what you said, if you let it go, 6 months down the road, it might lead to worse things. So, I guess the take-home message is if you're unfortunate enough to hit a deer, just know that your insurance, for the medical portion, your insurance covers it. No deductible, no nothing, as far as that goes, and so you can get checked out.
Well, if you haven't, you're pretty fortunate. If you've lived here a number of years, anywhere in northern Minnesota, and other states that have a large deer population, and there's a lot more areas and reasons that they end up having to cross a road, whether it was they're eating or at a lake or whatever, getting something to drink. So,
and I think that obviously now it's I put on quite a few miles, and you see deer crossing the road, and there's obviously the young ones out now. So, so if the mama crosses the road, guess what? The little ones are going to be far behind, and they're not going to be. The deer don't look anyway when they cross the road, but certainly young ones are oblivious to a lot of things. So,
we got to have defensive driving.
Yeah. Exactly.
And our seatbelt, I'm sure, is you would say it's got to have it on.
Well, it's the law.
It's the law.
And we've talked a few times that seatbelts are great for saving lives, but sometimes they're not the greatest they're terrible for whiplash. And so, I'm not saying not to wear a seatbelt
right.
because it's a law, but it's one of those things that when the seatbelt engages and your body's still going, it does an awesome job of saving lives and protecting the body, but your head isn't seatbelted. And so your body stays put, and your head whips forward, and then it has to whip back. So hence where kind of whiplash, the layman's term of whiplash, or what we call cervical acceleration, deceleration injuries occur. Neck sprain, strains.
Yeah, there's always something, isn't there?
Yeah. But the nice thing is, again, things like that are, if you have developed injuries or problems, they're highly treatable, very conservatively, especially if you don't let it go until it gets to the point where it's getting a lot worse. It's better to get checked. If you have anything going on, report a medical claim, get checked, so that in 6 months down the road, and now you start feeling these headaches coming on, and you're wondering, geez, why am I getting these tension type of headaches? And sometimes it's easy for me to relate back to what would cause that, because I see it all the time. But if the average person wouldn't probably relate hitting a deer to their headaches that occur three months later.
I wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't even think about it.
I figure it was something else I'd been doing here lately.
Yeah. So and we see that a lot in folks so that's part of the history that we take, and we try to kind of get down to the bottom of what could be kind of triggering things, and oftentimes we'll find like a minor, so-called minor collision between, maybe a deer hit or something like that could be the cause of things.
Well, you can get information on the conditions and situation right on the website, copy of this show as well. Dr. Erickson, when we come back, we'll close out the show and have our tip of the day.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back. Sport and Spinal Weekly in the studio with me, Jason Brodita, Choice Therapy. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you've been busy. You guys, it's been a busy year for you guys.
Yeah, it's been really busy. We moved into our new facility, expanded, added some staff, and we keep growing and trying to serve the community.
And here we are almost the end of summer.
We're here almost to the end of summer, and kids are going back to school, getting back into that routine here real quick.
So with that, as we're talking today, we're talking about kids in therapy. And you brought up that about the age that I was surprised.
We see quite a few kids in our clinic that are 5 and younger. We see people from 6 months old to 96 years old. But we see quite a few kids and more from years of 5 years old and younger. We've also added a couple of therapists recently that specialize in that type of therapy. One of them is Naomi Capon. She's an occupational therapist that has worked in the school system and specializes in kids that are under 5 years old. And we also added another person, a speech therapist named Kaylee, that's her specialty as well, working with young kids.
Because there's therapy beyond just what we're thinking physical, right?
You typically think of you injuring your shoulder or your knee or your back, and we need to rehab it that way. But we have a lot of kids that we see for developmental delays. They're behind their normal milestones that they should be able to hit. Now, I'm a physical therapist by trade, so there's kids that come in that can't walk when they should be. They can't crawl when they should be. We also see kids that have problems, what we call cognitive, where they have a hard time concentrating on their work. They can't stay on a task, and a lot of times an occupational therapist will work with those types of kids for that. Then we see speech therapists that will work with kids that have a hard time speaking, that aren't properly developed in their abilities to speak. So we see a wide range of complications with those types of kids.
And of course, you guys are the process before like medication or a major operation, right?
Yeah.
Well, I understand that sometimes you're also part of healing after an operation that has to be done.
We'll see some kids that have, if they have some defects that when they're growing up, in their young years, and they had to have some type of surgery. Well, we'll help them along with that. But we also see kids that don't need surgery, and they're trying to prevent any type of surgery for the future. Those are the people that we really want to try to help the most, because they have their whole lives ahead of them. And we too often see it at 12, 13 years old. Boy, I wish that kid would have been in therapy when they were 3 or 4. If somebody in the community has a child or sees a child that it appears to be developmentally delayed, they can come into our clinic. We'll do a free injury consultation with one of those therapists that recently joined us. That's their specialty. And they'll help you decide if they would benefit from physical therapy or occupational therapy.
And going over those, are most of the treatments, something that is natural, that or most of the time something that we repeat or do or behave a certain way or act a certain way or do a certain thing? It's not always like we have to take a pill or something?
Yeah, it's not. We would teach you, well, first off, the parents would come in and we'd show the parents how to play with their child correctly to, I'll take walking and crawling because that's what I know about.
Okay.
But we'll assist those parents in showing you, here's little tricks to help your child at home to walk properly, to crawl properly. We'll give you some helpful ideas on progressing them along to get them back up to speed, to catch up to their peers, so to speak. And so we make it fun in the clinic. We have a little gym area that's dedicated specifically for kids that age. We also have a fenced-in area and a little playground area that we have outside to bring the kids, and we basically make it fun. We do therapy by playing,
Okay.
and that's the kids.
Well, learned behavior, right? I mean,
Yes, the little learned behavior. You see a normal kid, they play all day long, and they're rehabbing on their own. And some of these kids that are developmentally delayed are not very active because they can't participate. So we help these kids and the parents, we show the parents and help the kids participate and help play, because play at a young age makes them develop.
Right.
And so that's what we help them with.
And we all have our own little. Everybody's got their own little issues, and I'm sure, whatever it may be, there's some things that we all don't get. You know.
Yes.
Some people are awesome at everything. That's very few, small percentage. But raising 3 children, I'm fortunate that everything has worked out just 10 fingers, 10 toes. But you notice little different nuances about them that they can't seem to do scissors. But you brought up something I didn't ever think about. Because it doesn't make you a good or bad parent if you know the proper way to walk or crawl. Because most of us, everything worked out right. We just take it for granted, but we don't always realize. Hey, we might know that they're not, but we don't know what's
and
wrong
that's
or right.
That's where we can help. Come in and we'll take a look at your child. We'll let the specialists take a look at them. Maybe they don't need any therapy. Maybe they're just fine where they're at. Just because a kid can't do something that his friend can do doesn't necessarily make them developmentally delayed. But you add a bunch of stuff together, maybe we can help them along. Just because I know about walking and crawling, our occupational therapists have taught me a lot on how to help my kids. Cutting with the scissors, like you said, proper writing techniques, proper what we call cognitive, how to properly concentrate in class. Those are things that occupational therapists have helped me in our clinic deal with my children at home.
Sure. And in today's world, in today's classrooms, those are all, when you see your kids struggle, sometimes it can be their vision. Sometimes it can be the hearing. Sometimes it's what you just explained. They can't, they're having a little struggle with that.
Yes, and it might be
Don't want to ruin school because of that. Something that can be fixed.
They don't even need rehab from our clinic. Maybe our therapist will take a look at them and say, well, no wonder they can't concentrate. They can't read the board. And your 4 or 5-year-old child can't pick that up. They can't tell you. But they come into our clinic, and our therapists will be able to help you with that and steer your child in the right direction so they get the needed help. The worst thing is to say my kid doesn't have a problem. That's only going to hurt them for when they're 18, 19, 22 years old and trying to join the workforce.
That, and then you just tell them they have to keep doing homework.
Yeah.
They're doing fine when it's right in front of them, or whatever the case may be. But so certainly it's you guys offer programs, right, for people that they can come in and get a consultation.
And we work with the parents, and we work with the child. Oftentimes kids come in and they have to see what we call all 3 disciplines: speech, occupational, and physical therapy. And our clinic works well with the parents and with the child to make the schedule work for everyone.
Okay.
And so you can come in and see all 3 disciplines instead of running back and forth.
Different places.
And like I said, we work hand in hand with the parents, and oftentimes the parents are right there with our therapists working with their child.
And you're talking even 5 and under.
Yeah, we sometimes see kids at 6 to 9 months old. And we see a fair amount of kids at 5 to 7 years old when they start going to school, and the parents or the teachers start noticing some delays with the handwriting, with simple cutting with the scissors.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a coordination and skills. And if you see your child not wanting to participate in activities or in art, or at home not wanting to color, it's probably because they're not it's not because they're not interested. It's because they physically have a hard time doing it. And you won't be able to tell that. It'll just look like the kid is trying to be difficult.
Right. Right.
So it's interesting to see some of those things, how kids will compensate, and it'll be tough to pick out some of those difficulties or delays that kids do have.
Yeah. Why struggle? Why have your kids struggle? Just call Choice Therapy. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, we're back. Close out today's show. I thank our guests for being on the show today, Jason Brodina and Choice Therapy. I suppose they're all happy in their new location over there.
Doing great, I think. Yeah.
And of course, Dr. Erickson coming in again as we round out the last couple weeks of August, which means September, which means October. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself, but so the fun day. School will be back soon.
It's a great time of year. Everything kind of gets back to the normal flow, and people get back to their normal schedules. And
College athletes are back.
We always look forward to working on those folks, and it's great. So yeah, a lot of excitement obviously in town. It'll be, some football getting going here, and lots of fun stuff.
Our tip of the day today.
Well, we talked about hitting deer, and we hear it all the time. Defensive driving, and obviously don't text and drive.
That's a good idea to continue to remind, because people do it every day, and we shouldn't.
That's right.
You have a good weekend.
All right, thanks, Mark.